Hey guys, this is Beauty Manifested and I am Danny Detiche. Today I'm going to talk about 5 things that I wish I knew before I started my garden. The first one I have is I wish I had taken design into consideration. I originally built one 5x5 raised bed. I was thinking small when I needed to be thinking big. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with starting small, but I honestly, and I don't believe in wasted money either. Like, I feel like it's all an investment in learning. Like, for example, well, like, okay, so some people, they go to college and they don't end up using the degree, or at least they don't end up working in the field that they studied. So some people would call that a waste of money and some people wouldn't, because it's not really a waste of money or a waste of time. It's just part of the process, and there's always something to learn and something to take. But in my first garden, I built, well, my very first garden was a long time ago, and my grandfather helped me do it, so I didn't build anything. But when I first created like my own personal garden, I had my dad build me a 5x5 raised bed. First of all, you're not supposed to do more than 4 feet because the 5x5, I couldn't reach all the plants. So sometimes I'd have to like literally put my knees in the dirt, excuse me, to reach some of the plants that I was growing, because I just didn't know any better. And I think I had watched a few YouTube videos, but maybe I'm kind of hard-headed. Like, even if someone tells me something, I like to try it for myself. I don't always listen to them. I usually don't listen to them. So yeah, I would have like considered that. I think the one bed was enough to start. I'm not gonna lie, but it was just like in the middle of the grass. Like, I don't know. I would have taken a little bit more design because I end up having to remove that bed and put down new beds because I couldn't even put anything around that bed because it was literally just like in the middle of the grass. Like, it was kind of ridiculous. And then the second year, I don't know what I was on, but I was on like this Home Depot thing where I would go to Home Depot like pretty much every day and come home with something like pretty much every day. And so I got addicted to buying pots, and I was growing a bunch of stuff in pots, hanging pots, like all these pots. I have no idea why I was buying all these pots. Probably because all I had was the one 5x5 bed. But with the money that I had invested into like 20 or 30 pots, I literally could have just bought a few raised beds and grown more food. So I don't know what I was thinking, but if I were to go back and start again, I would look up like raised bed garden designs. I love to watch Garden Answer. I think I talk about her like every single day on my channel, but she does all kinds of like inspiration videos where like she just shows all of her followers gardens. So if I had looked at that more and got a little bit more inspiration, I think that I would have designed my bed better. So that's definitely something I would recommend. The number 2 is irrigation. This is literally so crucial. I was smart because I placed the garden right near the hose. So that was smart. Like, I don't have to pull the hose all the way across the yard. At one point when I had my containers, I did have my containers like all around the pool, and then I would have to pull the hose all over the place. But I learned quickly that that wasn't gonna work. And luckily, since I did have containers, I could just pick them up and move them. So I guess that was one benefit of the containers. But having a solid irrigation system is key. I do have a drip line that I run, especially into my big beds. I have one bed that is like 40 or between 40 and 60 feet. I know that's a big gap, but it's like it's super duper long. And I just watered it by hand today and it took me like an hour. Like, there's no way I can do that all the time. I do that in the beginning of the season, one because I don't have that much to do and I just enjoy having time out in the garden, but also because I have like small seeds and things that I'm starting, and a lot of like the new plants I've planted don't have very deep root systems. And so, and I have my drip line buried a little bit, not much under the soil, but it's buried a little bit, and the coverage is not as even. So I just find that on the young plants or on the seedlings, it is much better for me to like just go in and water overhand. And I mean, and likewise, like I water by hand usually every day all throughout the summer, with like just random containers and things that maybe I don't have set up on drip. I use sprinklers that I set up, like a little sprinkler attachment. We also have a sprinkler system in our yard that runs. but I have like a sprinkler that attaches to the hole, and I'll let that run while I'm getting ready as well, and that makes it so I don't have to just sit out in the garden. I can just set it up and then go back inside. But just consider, like, okay, how am I gonna water my plants? Especially if you live in Michigan, like, or not in Michigan, in Texas, like me. I was gonna say my sister lives in Michigan, and I feel like she doesn't have this issue as much because it doesn't even get that hot there. But especially if you live somewhere that gets hot, like over 100 degrees, you're gonna have to water every single day. And if you don't have some sort of irrigation system that can work without you, like not just overhead watering, you're not going to be able to take any weekend trips. You're not going to be able to have no slumber parties. Like literally, like sometimes I would go hang out, have like a night out with the girls, and then sleep over, and I'd have to rush home in the morning at like 6 a.m. just so I could be home to water my plants because they expect to be watered around the same time every day. And it's good because it adds some consistency to your life. Like it's not good to just be sleeping all over town all the time. But like, you know, what if your boo wants to take you on a weekend trip? So definitely just consider irrigation. You don't want to take one weekend trip and then all your months and months and months of hard work is just gone. um Zone. Oh yeah, so number 3 is zone. So I did not know when I first started my garden that like that let me read. Okay, so I put zone, weather, planting schedule, etc. I literally used to take advice from Michigan Gardener. Like I didn't like, okay, so Michigan Gardener has videos like what you can plant in March. What a Michigan gardener person can plant in March is way different than what I can plant in March. And so I wasn't taking advice from people who actually are gardening in North Texas. And I wasn't necessarily even vetting people on the internet. Like, okay, well, what makes them qualified to be teaching? Like, what's their garden experience? What kind of soil are they gardening in? Like, there were just so many things. And if you just go to someone's channel, like even Garden Answer, she's not in my same zone, but she does live in a high desert. And like, we have a similar kind of climate, I would say. Although it gets a little colder where she is, I think. But like, if you watch one person consistently, you really get to know them and their gardening style and their goals and everything like that. And I feel like that's a lot more impactful than like watching one video from a million different channels because you just don't know like the context at all. So definitely find some mentors who garden in your zone. If you have any neighbors who you know garden, talk to them. Join a gardening club in your neighborhood. Start a gardening club in your neighborhood and experiment. You can even look up like in the Old Farmer's Almanac planting times for your specific city. You can't just be taking advice from gardeners in Alaska in your gardening in Texas. Like that makes no sense, but that's what I was doing. So I would have taken that into consideration. The fourth one is I wish I'd been more organized, and I still wish I were more organized. If I ever changed my channel name, I would be called the Chaotic Gardener. Yeah, I'm not really like a nice and neat gardener. In the beginning of the season, I always wanted to be like that, but it just doesn't work like that. Like sometimes I have too many plants and I have to stick them into places, so I can't really follow the square foot gardening and like be super neat because things just get kind of crazy and out of control. I suck at plant labeling. I always lose the tags or I like throw them out, like all kinds of crazy stuff. I want to keep like a Google Sheets and a planting schedule so I know what I planted, when I planted, where I planted it. That way, even if the tag gets lost, it'll be pretty easy to identify because I logged everything in my Google Sheets. And in that way, it'll be really easy to compare year to year. I haven't started doing that yet, but you know what? I might do that today while I'm at work. I'm going to start a Google Sheets because that would have really be impactful, especially if I want to help other people grow their gardens. It's important that I'm able to document like what's going well for me and what's not going well for me instead of everything being just like chaotic and all over the place and sporadic and like basically like you just get lucky sometimes. I don't want it to be like luck based. I do want it to be evidence based. And last but not least is I wish I had taken more photos and videos. I do a lot better at this now, but my garden has changed so much. Like when I go out there, I feel so proud of myself and proud of the work that I've done. I have truly transformed my space and I'm not even done yet. Like it's just always growing and evolving. So I would encourage you to take as many photos and videos as you can. It's going to look so different from year to year. and you want to be able to see like the work that you've been putting in. It feels so good to like look back and be like, oh my god, like, okay, so I have this pool bed, and now I have a pomegranate, I have blackberries, I have bananas, canna lilies, elephant ears, Rosmos, zinnias sometimes grow in it. I'm growing onions in it. Like, I'm growing all kinds of things in it. And when I first started, it had like a 10-year-old rose bush that was just like really epic, and I loved it, but it died in the freeze. And then it was a whole bed of freaking yucca. Like, it's like a strong cactus pokey plant. Like, taking it out was a bear. I had to dig for hours a day. I had to yank heavy pieces of yucca out. It's still not all the way out. I'm still pulling yucca. It was so massive. I had to wear like 3 layers because it could, like, if it poked you, it really hurt and it cut. It was crazy, and I removed all of that. I added compost. I did so much. Like, I feel so proud of myself. I built like 5 new beds last year. Oh, I built 7 new beds last year. I started composting. I've built trellises. I used a tiller, and I established my first in-ground bed. I established a perennial garden in the front. Like, I've literally done so much, and I've invested so much. I dug up the beds by my house. I laid new soil. It used to just be full of like these brown rocks. I removed all of the rocks and replaced it with soil so I could grow flowers. Like, I've done so much, and I didn't take pictures of everything, so I don't always have before and afters, and that's like one of my biggest regrets, I guess, because like I really wish I could see it because I feel so proud of myself. Like, wow, I'm so impressed with myself. It's like I do so good. Yeah, but I guess those are my top 5. Taking design into consideration, irrigation, zone, weather, and planting schedule, organization, slash plant labeling, and then taking photos and videos. I love you guys. Let me know if you guys are growing a garden this year. I hope you have a beautiful day. Stay beautiful and grow something lovely. Bye bye.